Hello, my name is Ashley Collins, aka the Aunt of Dragons. Welcome to my YouTube channel, The Breakup Diaries Story Time. I really always love it. Overly excited about doing story time. So when I first went to college, Florida State University, woo! I didn't have a vehicle, right? But what the campus did for us, which was super convenient, we had our own like busing system. So it would take you to like the main apartments, which normally the college students would live, and it would also take you around campus. You would be able to ride for free. So it was super convenient. I didn't really need a car. Occasionally, like friends would take me to the grocery store, but other than that, I would like just take the bus. And I mean, I'm just one person, so I didn't really carry that many groceries. Literally, my fridge was just full of like fruit and water bottles. That's it. I don't know how I survived college. But when I graduated from college, I then got a car. His name was Thor. I named him Thor because that was the first movie I took myself to see. Oh my god, that was the first Thor movie. Gosh, look at how Marvel has evolved. I was watching The Falcon and the Winter Soldier last night. I probably should have been asleep, but it's so good. It's so addictive. It's like I just want to know what happens next. And like their chemistry, Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan, which firstly, Sebastian Stan is kind of hot. Have you noticed that? That scene, spoilers, that scene when they're in the bar with Zemo, forgive me, with Zemo, and he says, Winter Soldier attacking, he's like grabs his arm. I was like, oh my god, that was kind of a little hot and bothered there. What does that have to do with the subject? Sorry. Watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Okay, so my first car was name was Thor, and I had him for a good minute, for several years. So I didn't really, getting around wasn't that big of an issue for me until I got into my car accident. A car sideswiped me. My front light was like bent in. My side door was like bent in. It was just like tragic. It was completely awful. And so, and on top of that, this is when I was also going through my breakup. So I had moved with my ex at the time to a new city, and so here I am, carless. I don't know anyone in this city. What do I do? Right? Oh, and then here's the kicker. You ready for another thing? Another thing is also that same week my phone broke. Yeah. So that first week of me having no car, you would think like, why don't you just take an Uber? So what I would do is I'd walk to my neighbor's house and I would give him cash in order for him to order me an Uber to get to work. Now how do I get home? That was always a flip of a coin for that week of how I was gonna get home. I remember one night I just walked, and my job was like 15 minutes from my apartment at the time. I'm already sweating. Forgive me. Oh god. But so yeah. Fun fact. I'm pretty sure you already know this. Maybe this is just common sense. You're not allowed to walk on the highway. It makes sense because it's dangerous. Like what if someone hits you with their car, and like whose fault is it? Was it you, the person walking? Was it them the person who was driving and didn't see you? Especially at night. But here's the thing. Like I live in Florida, right? So from the place that I was living, there is no accessible way to get to my apartment unless I unless I was walking on the highway, right? Or unless I walk all the way around the fucking city, which is going to be like several hours of walking, which is like, I'm talking as an American, from the American's perspective. The American public transportation system is so fucking stupid. It makes no sense. So let's talk about, okay. So, let me stay on one subject. God, I'm already fucking sweating. Okay, so like, I think it was like 3 weeks later, I finally got another car. His name was Groot, because I took myself to go see Guardians of the Galaxy in that car. And then that car broke down, like, I want to say like a month later, 2 months later. So then I was like, okay, now I'm completely SOL. Like, at this point, I don't even want another car because I don't want to have to deal with the headache of being screwed over, of potentially getting into a car accident, etc., right? So I'm like, okay, I need to figure out how to do this because I'm losing too much money using Uber, So I taught myself how to use the busing system, which was so maddening for like for like a couple of weeks because I didn't get it. It made no sense to me. You know, what do you mean there's a bus, this bus doesn't go here? What do you mean, like, doesn't it go like in a big circle? You know, like, that's not how it works, right? So since then I have been very very pro taking the busing system, you know, and I live in Florida, so we don't really have like a train or a subway system here. You have to either rely on the bus, your feet, or Uber. And then we're going to talk about Uber in a little fucking bit. So let's talk about the history of the public transportation system, shall we? So we used to have this system with, it's called, before streetcars, we used to have horse cars, where literally the horse would carry you in like this like kind of, how do I want to describe it? Like a little cab, it's like a bus, but the horse was carrying you to and from the destination, and it covered a very large area, right? And then we slowly evolved into the streetcar named Desire. That was useful, right? That was a good play, Stella. And then that's what people would use to get around. And then there was a shift. I'm sure you know what that shift was, with the invention of the car, right? So cars were already in existence with streetcars, right? But they made it a lot more affordable. So everyone was buying a vehicle, because you know why? Not only is because you have you're in charge, right? Like, you don't have to rely on the streetcar. You don't need to rely on the horses. You don't need to rely on a cabbie to get you around, right? But also, what is America all about? America's all about freedom, right? So now you can't take away my guns. You can't take away my car, right? So everyone was purchasing a vehicle, feeling like all high and mighty and aristocratic, because if the rich people can afford a car, so can I, you know? America seems to be very like car central, right? Like, it's like you need a vehicle to get around anywhere, right? And it's like it's not very. What are the incentives of having a strong public transportation system if this person is willing to take out this loan and that loan and that loan and that loan? You know, like, that's what's going to help me with my pocket, right? Where do I want to go next? Every city, and then we're not talking about New York, we're not talking about DC, we're not talking about Chicago. And yes, okay, those three, I think. Every city does a very bad job on how its roads are built, right? It does a very bad job with how their buses are directed, right? Also, why isn't there a bus lane? Have you ever noticed that? One of my friends pointed this out to me, right? So the buses drive on the same streets as everyone else with the cars, right? But something that I've noticed, you know, as a Florida resident who takes the bus often-ish, is that obviously you have to take into account maybe there's traffic, right? Maybe there's an accident, right? Which will result in the bus running late, right? So but then whose fault is that? Whose fault? How are you supposed to tell your boss who, you know, what really pisses me off that I just noticed is a problem? When they ask you, and it feels borderline also very invasive, when they ask you shit like, do you have reliable transportation to get to work? That's none of your business. I'll find a way to get to work. Do I have this job or not? Yes or no? Cool. Thanks. That's none of your business how I'm going to get to work. But then why is that even a question in the first place? You know? But like I was saying, why isn't there a bus lane that to fast track them in order for them to be on time? You know? And like I said, like, there'll be less late buses, and also there'll be less traffic, don't you think? Because then obviously, like, you have to slow down when you see the buses slowing down, or you're gonna be impatient. You're gonna want to drive around them, and that's how you get into car accidents. You know, You know, it's another weird, funny thing about when employers ask you if you have reliable transportation. It's like they already know that public transportation sucks too. You know? And you know, something I've noticed is that, okay, and I mean this in like the least offensive way possible, right? The people who take the bus, obviously, the people who take the Amtrak, the people who are on the subway, etc., etc. Of course, there are a certain class of people. These people are the people who can't afford a car, you know. And also, it kind of feels like when you had to walk miles to get to a bus stop, right? It kind of feels like it was built, it was designed in order to keep a certain class of people away from major cities. You know? Does that make sense? It kind of feels like I don't want you working in this area in the first place, so we're gonna make sure that this bus stop is like miles away. You know, we're gonna make sure that they're not a part of us. So it feels more like a class issue where it's like you don't want the lower class to be a part of this booming area. You know. I mean, having taken the bus, I was watching a couple of videos about this subject, and I was hearing people complaining about like, oh, that there's always that weird, creepy guy, or like that lady who's talking to herself, da 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 da, and it's like, of course you're gonna meet some very, very interesting characters, but I think I've met some of the nicest people on the bus. You know, like the people who will be like, I just paid for them right behind me. You know, that happens all the time on the bus. Like I've had some of the coolest conversations with people on the bus. When I was living in that other city, in a way like everyone knew me. You know, like I'd be like running to the bus and like, hey man, slow down, Ashley's late again. You know, the bus drivers knew me. You know, like so it was a really cool community that we had built of us all just like taking an hour or 2 hour commute trying to get home. You know, when it really feels like it shouldn't take that long. I feel like the bus system, and like I said, maybe I'm just primarily talking about Florida. Maybe this is an issue in Georgia and Alabama, etc. as well. But like, I feel like they should be more consistent. They should be running every 30 minutes, you know. And I think that this is a great way to produce more jobs. But now you're thinking that with COVID, like there's less space on the bus now. They can't have a full bus anymore. So now what is that person supposed to fucking do who needs to get to work? Wait for the next bus in an hour? That makes no sense. Why did you invent a busing system here in the first place if you don't want us to fucking go to work? And like I said, not trying to knock people down who drive for Uber or for Lyft, but I get off work at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, right? That fucking surge? No, thank you. No, I'd rather walk halfway than you pick me up the rest of the way. And then on top of that, like the other night, right? The other night, I think I waited 3 hours for a fucking Uber. I ordered it, and then it was like I always do like the longest wait because I'm like, there's no rush, right? Like when after having taken public transportation, my friend called it PT. I don't know why it sounds like you're doing like a sentence, but after having taken public transportation for so long, I don't mind an hour commute. I don't mind a 2 hour commute because I can use that time editing. I can use that time reading. I can use that time writing. I can use that time. I can use that hour, 2 hour commuting doing something extremely productive or making a friend with someone on the bus. You know, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bug me at all. What bugs me is that, like I said, the other night when I was waiting for my Uber, I waited 30 minutes and I didn't get a notification that they were there, right? So I just randomly checked my phone and he said, I'm outside twice. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just saw this. I'm coming now. So I literally walked outside and he drove off. And I was like, oh, maybe he doesn't see me. So I started like walking after him, but he kept driving. So I was like, what? You saw me. I know that you fucking saw me. So now I'm going to be charged because you were being fucking impatient. You know what I'm saying? Like, so then I had to wait another like 30 minutes. It was maddening. It was frustrating, you know? And also, yeah, like not everyone can afford that surge. If I'm going to work, right, at a restaurant and I only made $100 that night, but the surge is $50, what was the point of me even showing up to work then? If half my paycheck is going to fucking you, to the Uber driver. Not everyone can afford Uber. And it's just so much more economically wise to use public transportation. You save so much more money than Ubering and also owning a car, you know? And I think that the buses should run it till at least 1 a.m. I said it. I said it. You know, like if the railways, right, the subways in the north, in DC and New York, if some of those are 24 hours, why don't we have a 24-hour bus? Because some people do get off of work at 3 a.m. Some people may get off of work at 4 a.m. What are they supposed to do? Wait for it. Oh my God, I ordered an Uber the other night at 1 a.m. It took forever. Forever. Okay. What was I gonna say? What was I gonna say? People will spend thousands of dollars a year on their car, right? They'll pimp it, right? Car insurance, gas, you know, heaven forbid, like someone bumps into you and get a dent. But I feel like it's a lot more. Not only will it help the environment if people use PT, public transportation, more often, but also it'll help, you know, lessen traffic. You know, like how many of us have waited hours in traffic at Disney? But can you imagine if they built like a massive subway system, maybe above ground or below ground, like if the monorail extended throughout Orlando? Imagine how that'll help with tourism. But not only that, but it'll also help with create jobs, right? Because we want people to work after this pandemic, right? You want people to stop asking you for handouts, right? This is a great way to create jobs, creating these systems and adding more bus routes, adding more bus drivers. This is a great way to create jobs for people. Because like I said, you don't want people asking for handouts anymore, right? So let us work. Let us do stuff for ourselves. All you have to do is offer us the opportunity. You know what I'm saying? Not all of us are lazy. Some of us do want to work. You know, the problem is like cities, they're so sprawled out, right? That it makes good decent transit very difficult. Okay. I already said that. I also want to talk a little bit about the Greyhound system, right? So with COVID, they have lessened the amount of trips throughout the day. So sometime maybe there might be a bus leaving for a certain area twice a day. So it's kind of like I said before, I don't know why you don't want the lower class of accessibility to stuff. I don't know why you don't want the lower class to have access to stuff. I don't know why you don't want the lower class to not travel. Plane tickets are expensive as fuck. You know what I'm saying? And you're already gonna be riding this Greyhound for several hours. So why not? So why did you lessen the amount of Greyhounds as opposed to these flights? You know, that makes no sense to me. Also, with how inconsistent and how small and how far away these bus routes are, in a way, it's kind of like it's forcing you and it's telling you where you can and cannot live. It's telling you where you're allowed to live and where you're not allowed to live, and that doesn't seem very right. That doesn't seem very fair at all. You know, so talking about class issues, how do you escape poverty then? You need access to a vehicle. You need a car. I remember I talk to people a lot about like how I want to move, particularly to Texas. I want to live in Texas, and they'll tell me you need a car, and I don't think that they mean you need a car as in like you need a car to get to work, but you need a car to prove your economic status. I'll leave you with this. So, as you know, incentives matter, right? So what's in it for the government in order to make stronger public transportation systems for people, right? Because apparently Americans don't see public transportation as a service. They see it as a welfare system, right? They see it as people who can't afford a car. So what's the incentive for the government to for Congress to say that we're going to allocate this certain amount of money to creating a bus lane, to creating a subway system, to adding more bus routes, to adding more jobs, to adding to we have a fucking we have a fucking train right around my general area of my house, but it's only used to transport items. Why can't we use this train, this Amtrak, to transport people? I think it also passes by Busch Gardens. So like people would take the train to go to Busch Gardens as opposed to like having overflowing parking and overflowing traffic at Busch Gardens. It would make much more sense, you know? It's like this, it just makes more logical sense, and we can make things so much easier. We can make life so much more easy and more convenient if we just focus on our public transportation system. And it's like I said, it's really going to help with tourism, you know, because this person's coming from Japan, this person's coming from Ireland, so they already know how the public transportation system works. So like they're like, oh, it's just like home, but now I get to hang out with Mickey, you know. And like I said, incentives matter. How can we incentivize to the government, to Congress, that we need this? I don't know the 100% answer to that yet. I think the right persons need to say something, because they're obviously not going to listen to the lower class. And they're definitely not going to listen to a girl who lives at home with her mom and vlogs in her bra. I was talking to my friend, the whitest guy, and he was saying how Elon Musk is trying to create electric buses in California that go underground. And I'm like, that's a brilliant idea. That's genius. And of course, that's going to take time. You have a whole class of people who are looking for jobs. Hire them, train them. You know, I think that we forget that there's a difference between you need a job. You know, like you need a job, you need to pay bills because your kids are starving. But then also is you need a purpose. Your purpose is you're going to help future generations get around, and they don't necessarily need a car. You know what I'm saying? They can save that money and they can go on vacation, or they can invest it, etc., etc. This is not a job, this is your purpose. And I bet you they would rush to get out of bed every morning. They'd be like, I have such a useful skill. I'm working on an underground busing system. What a cool fucking job. I would fucking love to brag about that. You know? But like I said, no one's gonna listen to me. Yeah. That's it. Thanks for listening to that rant. I guess I'll take the bus today. I honestly do and really thoroughly enjoy the people that I meet on the bus. You have no idea. I remember this one bus driver in particular in the old city I was living in. I would always get off work so late, and I was always the only person on the bus, but I would stand up at the front with him and I talk to him. He would tell me stories, and we talk and laugh, and I miss him a little bit. Cool. That's it. Thanks for listening to this rant. What are your thoughts on the American public transportation system? It's kind of shitty, right? But it's designed to stay shitty, though, because we have to keep the lower class thinking that they can have opportunities. Bye.